that time of year again. And Ali and I had decided that now every year we're going to come back. And there's a good reason for that. First of all, because you as the audience really love to do it. And Ali and I love to do this conversation because it just makes us calibrate ourselves. And Ali and I went to a gig in London where we saw Ryan Holiday, the Daily Stoic guy. And we were talking about what can we talk about this year. And actually we met Kieran on that journey as well. And then I asked a couple of people afterward, and everybody was talking about, why not have a conversation about, consistency. And, and every year the conversation is about how do we actually unleash people's potential. And consistency is often a bit forgotten, we thought. I think a lot of people talk about setting goals, which we've talked about, changing your beliefs and values, which we've also been talking about, breaking the plan into something actionable on a daily level, which we actually also talked about last year. And then the last reason for why we should do this is also that Ali, again, this is the second year he's like the top downloaded and listened to conversation. So welcome, Ali, again, and congratulations with that honor.
Yeah, you told me that just before we came on air. I couldn't believe it with all the amazing guests you had. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Love to be here again. And I can't come around so quickly, Michael.
No, a year. Wow. We just talked about it before we went on. Like, it's just like, it's almost not even a flick. It's just like you look over your shoulder and it's gone.
Yeah.
And we're moving into 2025. And then when you hear this, it's the first week of January. And you might have come out on the other side with a great plan for the year. You have reviewed yourself. You're ready to go. And in a way, this is what we think about the conversation today. And to set it up, I'm just going to give a bit of a broad vision, and then we're going to go into, and Ali's going to, for people who haven't met Ali, he's probably going to say a bit about himself. But Ali and I, we really find that, as I said before, consistency is underrated. And why is that? It's because it's not always immediately visible, or you don't feel it straight away. It's hard to maintain when life hits you with the unpredictable nature life has. The waves of life in your private life, but also in business. And it's really difficult to maintain, as I have come to say recently, keeping the rhythm, because the rhythm is really important to feel that you're progressing on the big things, because you need consistency to really break through on the big things. And that goes, in my experience it's my personal development, leadership, or impacting things in your business. The result here is always about creating, consistency or habits around them. And I think there's a couple of quotes I wanted to set the scene with, and then we're going to talk about like what we expect to get through today. And then Ali's going to talk a bit about his journey shortly and where he has the angle on consistency. But there's like two quotes I look at every day, because that's actually remind me about the power of consistency. It doesn't mean I get it right all the time, by the way. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. It's an African proverb, but actually it's so true. It also comes to your savings. You probably know that. If you don't put money aside every month, it doesn't count point. Then there's one from Shane Paris there, which I actually got from a friend 2 weeks ago. And it says, short-term results come from intensity. Long-term results comes from consistency. So we all know that. Now I'm going to do something about it, and you're going to achieve this short-term result, and you are excited, you're happy, you are on the high. But then actually, what's after that? Because you didn't have a plan for how you consistently keep on making results. And I know it in business. You focus a quarter, the sales goes up, but you didn't have a plan for how consistently to focus on the sales. And the sales drops again, and you then start to whip the sales team or yourself to do it one more time. So you have this waves that take so much energy, and then you end out in burnout. But that was like my thoughts about today's conversation and the vision for today's conversation. It's all about consistency. Ali, what has your journey been for the people who haven't met you yet? And how is that connected to the conversation we're going to talk about today?
So obviously, we met through hospitality, actually. So before I became a sort of life strategist and coach, I spent 25 years in the hospitality business. I worked for people like Jamie Oliver, and set up a business called Ollie and Steen, which is Laukuso, which is the Danish connection.
Yep.
I set that up in the UK, in London, and rolled that out. And then I hit 50 and decided I needed a big change in my life. I wasn't seeing my kids. I went through a separation. Very, very sort of painful separation, and decided that I really wanted to change my own life, actually. And I'd spent 25 years very driven. I had fair bit of success. I'd also had some disappointments, but I hadn't really got a plan. I never really had a plan. So I was already doing quite a lot of work with my teams, with coaching my team. So I decided to make a transition into working with other people, working on their own life strategy, coaching, whether they're leaders, whether they're individuals looking to sort of change their life or to change the destination of their life. So I work with lots of sort of senior management now, CEOs, business owners, on really understanding what they want to achieve out of their life and helping them to align that with their sort of values and where they want to be going with their life. And I've been doing that for now six years. Would you believe, Michael?
Nope.
I love it. And it's been a consistent journey of understanding what I do, how I work, and consistently sort of having to show up every day as a coach and sort of life strategist.
Yeah, and in a company of one, in principle,
Yes.
where consistency is even harder because there's no one but yourself or your mentors or coaches keeping you accountable. Good. So let's jump into it. Why is consistency so underrated? Do you have an answer to that? Because I've been thinking a bit about that, but I think it's very hard to say. But actually, when you think about it in life and business and leadership, it's often very not really rated. It's not something you talk about in your life.
Yeah, I think it's about framing consistency. I think people like that definition. I think for me, consistency is not just about turning up and doing something repeatedly. It's understanding the reason behind the consistency. What is the reason that you want to be consistent? And to your point as well, that consistency is an invisible thing. It's in order to stay consistent, you have got to believe that there are going to be some results, and those results aren't often immediate. You don't actually see them straight away. If you're going through, I don't know, a weight loss program or building muscle or growing a business, it's slow. It's very slow, and at times it can feel like it's a grind to get there because you're not seeing immediate results. You mentioned actually before we came on, we live in a world that is expecting immediate results. When my daughter wants a beanie hat, I just go straight on Amazon, flick of my thumb, and she has a beanie hat the next day. We go onto Instagram, and there's this instant success being shown to us every day. We're surrounded constantly by this instant success. So that's why I think for a lot of people, staying consistent with something because they don't have a real reason, they don't have a real why behind it, is really, really hard.
And let's come back to our first conversation about, really exploring about what is your purpose, what is meaning here in life for you, what is your values, and actually get them realigned every year. As we said I think it was last year, we talked about the importance of revisiting that every year. As you evolve, you're not the same person that sits down and review yourself after a year. You are a different person at that point. There's something happening actually. And you can only see that by doing the review as we talked about last year.
I totally agree. I've just done my own review this year to set where I want to be in 2025. And I'm always so surprised at, we were saying earlier that the year has absolutely flown. And I think it's so important to sit down, and I literally go through my calendar and see all the things that have happened against the custom goals that I set myself. And I'm always really, really surprised how much has happened over that time. And actually that fills me with a very warm feeling because, like everybody, my life is moving quite fast. I'm obviously, I'm a business owner at the same time as a coach, a life strategist. So I'm running a business, and that takes a lot of effort and time and consistency. And stopping, honestly, for about an hour and just writing things down in terms of what are you grateful for? What are the lessons you've learned? The professional lessons, the personal lessons. What are the memories that you've had? And through all those things, what do you want to set up for next year? It's honestly, it's so I find it really, really helpful and really important to just stop and reflect on where you've come from.
It's really interesting. I think we had a conversation a couple of months ago because I start my review over a couple of months, and then I talked about very specifically about one of my habits or one of my consistency I was doing. I was trying to get up at 5 o'clock, but the uncertainty in my life has just gone off the scale. And so I just had to reevaluate my, things I was doing consistently, my impact roadmap, as I call it. I have these 10 things I do every day. And if I do 5 of them, it's an okay day. If I do all 10, it's a great day. And one of them was to get up at 5 o'clock to have alone time, but it's just not possible. I needed more rest actually to deal with the uncertainty. So I actually had to go back and say, actually, my values and believe it's the right thing to go up at 5 o'clock, but I'm in a situation where it's actually not serving me and the long-term goal of what I want to achieve. It's probably going to burn me out more. So I actually had to reset that and actually say it's not about getting maybe 2 hours in the morning. It's about getting 45 minutes, but then you are very effective about what you do in those 45 minutes. So you get a great start to the day.
Yeah, and it's getting behind the why of the 5 a.m. Why do I want to get up at 5 a.m.? Because we and going back to this consistency thing and having habits, and I, like you, I'm a 5 a.m. riser, and why do I do the 5 a.m. rise? Is because it's something that I sort of learned when I had very young kids. It was the only time I could find any space in my day, running a business and having a family. It was the only time of the day that I could have to myself and really think about what I wanted to do with the day. And also, I'm a huge believer in and I think for everybody, health is the foundation for everything. And having some kind of movement in my life, I know that there are some days where I feel quite a bit flat. This morning actually was interesting because I woke up and I felt just a bit flat. I thought, I know what I need to do. I need to just move. So I went to the gym or whatever. And if I don't have the time, I will do some kind of stretching here or some sit-ups or, spot or something. So that can be your 5 a.m. wake up. Why are you doing it? Because I want to feel better about myself. I want to have time to plan. And with you, I know, obviously we've been talking quite a lot recently about there's so much going on in your private life at the moment and your professional life. And sleep was just really important. It was just really empowering because you need to be able to turn up and we get stuck in these routines that we feel we have to do. And sometimes we have to step back and reevaluate and go, why am I doing this? Why have I created this habit? And is it serving me right now? And having a level of kindness, I think, as well, Michael, that we talked about that. Just being kind to yourself and going, this is not something that is serving me and making me feel any better. And actually going to bed a bit earlier and then sleeping and just changing your diet slightly, for instance, which are fairly frictionless, are sometimes a better way of doing it.
Yeah, and it's one of the things you're in control in, and everything will come a bit back to that as well. Yeah. When then, we already touching on the next thing I wanted to dive in because I think it's, why are you doing what you're doing every day. And I think it's really important. That was like really a wake-up call this year for me, because I'm very much into systems, and then that's what I'm doing. And actually that sets me up for a great day. But actually you can actually get to a point where it's not serving you anymore. For a period. I think it will come back, and I'm sure it will, because I also enjoy that time of the day. As you said, like in a busy life, that's the time where you have absolutely silence and you can think clearly. I am tired at night, so I don't think clearly because I run 100 kilometers in the day. So at night, I just want to switch off and recover for next day. What is like this unpredictable nature of life? Often when I hear people, I actually talked with somebody the other day, and she was saying that, she was like so good with her, habits, both in the evening and the morning. And then she got busy in a good way. Like things was taking off. Things were happening of what she's been waiting for. She's actually been following her systems, and then results start rolling in and she get overwhelmed because she get extra busy. So actually, the good behaviors of consistency goes away. And how do you actually keep it alive in the right way so you don't go over a cliff before you course correct?
Yeah, and I think you can actually add to the overwhelm, because you're being tough on yourself by saying, well, I'm not in my routine. So you're overwhelming yourself. You've got overwhelming stuff coming in. And then you've got this overwhelm of, oh my God, I'm not doing my routines. And we attach a lot to those routines. If I don't do that routine, I won't feel good about myself. I won't do the things. And I think I said earlier, it's being kind. It's really being kind to yourself and not overwhelming yourself with this, punishing yourself for not doing your routines.
Yeah.
It's also, and James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. It's about having flexibility. Yeah. I knew that I would be speaking today. I wanted to do some planning for the conversation. So I knew I didn't have much time in the gym. So I just reduced the gym time. I wanted to spend some time in the gym because mentally I wanted to be ready for this conversation. So I just spent 20 minutes down there. I just did a hit routine. And that's all I needed. I just needed to move my body. Sometimes it may be just going for a walk. So I think for people where life starts to overwhelm, and you can talk to this better than I can at the moment. I know, because I know what's going on. You've got so many things going on in your life. It is about having flexibility. It's about being kind to yourself. And it's also about thinking out of the box. It's about thinking, okay, so what can I do? I was speaking to a client yesterday, first-time father. He's, the baby is, I think, 3 weeks old. And he just wanted to talk to me about, look, you've been a dad. I can't do my gym and I can't see my friends. And my advice to him was, look, the sooner you can get to acceptance on that, the better, first of all. And then what can we do in the short term? This is not going to go on forever. As anyone that's a parent knows, that sort of that first bit of having a child is relentless, and you just don't think you're ever going to get out of it. And we were just talking about, okay, what can you do now? He said he was not eating very well. Okay, so what can you start eating some better food? Okay, in the block, there was a gym downstairs. Not everyone has that. I said, look, can you just do 20 minutes and just talk to your partner and just say, look, can I spend 20 minutes twice a week down there so you feel like you're moving? So it's about the adaptability of it, Mike. It really is about adapting our lives and not overwhelming ourselves with telling ourselves that we must do these things. Sometimes you've got to get to acceptance that you can't. But what can you do alternatively that maybe take a shorter time?
Yeah, and I loved about chopping it down. Because I've learned some years ago that these times always comes, and they come when you don't expect them and you don't need them in your life or in your work. And it's not about having kids, and there's these life events that happens, big things in life and in work where big complex decision has to be made and you need to create space for it. So actually chopping it down. So what I've done, and I don't know if you've heard about this, Ali, I have like, when life just flows, there is routines. Like, this is what I do in the morning, this is what I do in the evening, this is the time, this is how many times I do it a week. When life starts to shake a bit, when I don't have the same time. And then when life is absolutely chaos, and the waves are just coming. And actually what it is the same routines, but some of them I might have taken out, but then the core ones, like one of them, mine is also movement like yours. Yeah. I accept it can be everything. 20 minutes exercise is enough 3 times a week that week, because I know it's maybe only for a week, and then I can go back and dial the exercise up. I don't stay at my 45 minutes to an hour. I normally would like to read for half an hour in the morning. I bring that down to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm still reading. I maybe want to write for half an hour in the morning. I can't do that. I write for 50 minutes. So it's about actually, and then accepting, also saying that, maybe if you are showing up for something that you need to do every week, it could be that you want to post on social media 5 times a week. You actually say to yourself, when it gets really busy, I accept this maybe 1 to 2 times a week, but I'm still there. I'm still showing up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's lots of that comes down to that actually, it's first you say the acceptance, but also actually plan it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And then you look at that. Okay, that's what I agreed with myself. I'm going to feel great about that.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. And it's having a plan B and not being stuck in that place of, oh God, I can't do what I'm used to doing. You've got to get to a place of, okay, if I can't do that, what can I do? What can I do? And what's the reason? This is, again, it comes back to the why. Where are you trying to get to within your life? Who are you trying to be in your life? What is your identity? All those things are tied up with our consistency of our habits and how we're trying to live. And you just have to go back to that sort of framework all the time. And you're right, just having some consistency with the reading, some consistency with the movement, you are still doing those things. And there will be a time that you can get back to it. And you just have to, you have to be so kind to yourself and just know that, and maybe journal that down, saying, I know this is a really difficult time at the moment, but I will get back to what I'm trying to be consistent in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can have your non-negotiable, which there is on my list. There's some non-negotiable that happens in some kind of format, no matter what the week gives, that will happen at some point. And now maybe sometimes I can't do it in the morning. I have to move it to the afternoon.
Yeah.
Even though I prefer to do it in the morning, it will set me up better. But I have I have to recharge. So in the middle of the day, there might be a time over lunch where I normally wouldn't do this, but now I'm going to do it. But there is some things I would do. There's non-negotiable no matter what, but I'll just reduce them, as you say. I think that's really good. Good way of approaching it. And then there's often, Leon, I don't know if you hear that from clients you work with. I've heard it through many years, that thing, we easily get distracted on the short term, and actually we don't really understand the long-term impact of these things. Could you maybe share some, and it could be, one of your own results, like these real world stories about when, you keep that consistency going, the rhythm, as I call it as well. The rhythm is a bit out of, we just talk, can be a bit out of whack sometimes, but actually when you continue the rhythm, day after day, month after month, year after year, suddenly some big transformative results comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll talk about, I think the business for me, actually, my business is I've had to remain really consistent with that. And it has been real ebbs and flows, writing on LinkedIn and building a sort of social media profile. It is hard because you have to stay really consistent with your messaging, with writing regularly, filming videos, in fitting that all in between actually doing, working with clients as well. And when I first started, I go back to that kind of, I was overwhelming myself with, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. And again, I worked on, okay, so why am I doing this? What is the point of doing this? What is the why behind it? And giving myself a bit of space, and knowing that sometimes I would work on when I actually started the business, because of hospitality, the weekends, the fact that I didn't work weekends was like a gift to me, because I've worked 25 years, I've worked weekends and always been available. So giving up a Sunday now and again and just saying, okay, I'm going to do all my writing on a Sunday, but I'm going to go to a cafe where I can actually watch people walk by and whatever and write at the cafe and drink a great cup of coffee. So I just remained really consistent as much as possible with the business. And then again, it's surrounding yourself with this really great people that you can bounce off and help you remain consistent as well, that you can explore with, that are also pushing quite hard, and you can sometimes get in their slipstream as well and be sort of pushed with them as well. And I could see the incremental results. You and I have talked a lot about the 1%, the 1%. Well, I could see the incremental results. I could see people starting to respond to some of the stuff I was writing. I could see the way I was just shaping and becoming a better coach. I could slowly see, and that's why the reflection exercise was so important to me. Like, okay, so what have I achieved for the business? And of course, it's the financial aspects. It's how many people I work with. What are the type of clients that I'm really loving working with? It's looking at all the diagnostics of the business as well and starting to understand, is this moving forward? And like anything in life, you need proof. You need proof to yourself that it is actually working. And so I was constantly looking for proof of that. And then if I needed to take a right turn, then I took a right turn. But I would talk to some people about it. I would watch some videos. I would ask people, I'd ask fellow coaches and say, okay, this is the reason I'm taking this route, because this is what I'm trying to achieve. So it was always attached to, I always trying to attach it to, and this is something I've learned over the years. What is the why behind this? Why am I trying to do this? So the consistency has made a huge, huge difference, and it's played a big part in how I've now, where the business is now and where I'd like to take it to.
That's super interesting. And you talked about the 1% comes from James Clear. If you do like 1% every day, it accumulates up to a 40, 40% improvement a year. Imagine improving 40% a year. And actually, more experience you get, especially if you're in a leadership position and you become quite senior, it's quite hard. At some point you hit the ceiling on things, and by understanding that and actually building your own roadmap for how you improve yourself, that's really where it comes in. And I think that's really where I want to take the conversation, because lots of your clients, you've been in a senior leader yourself in business. I think often what I see is that many don't have a plan for the consistency of their personal development as a leader. And when you get to the top, what's next? What's for me? And it's actually you that's responsible for your own development from there on. And that's where consistency become extremely important, because you're already taking the big leaps to become the CEO or you're founded a business. You're already there in a way, but how do I actually become better as an individual, but also how do I actually develop so I'm the best possible use for the business and the business results we need to create? So could you talk a bit about, why it's so important as you work with leaders, but also how that impacts their teams, the more consistent you are as a leader?
Yeah, I think as a leader, you need to understand the kind of leader that you want to be, first of all. I think you have to understand your own drivers, why you're doing it. Because if you can understand why you're driving yourself, or the way that you want to lead, or the kind of leader you want to turn up every day, then you consistently put those behaviors, you can try to put those behaviors consistently into your day. And employees respond to certain sort of behaviors: trust, clarity, integrity, accountability, and communication. And I think those are the 5 sort of foundations of any good leader. They need consistency. They need to understand where they're going. They need to understand that if they do something like that, they need to know what success looks like. They need to know how you want them to turn up every day. They need to know that what they're accountable to. They need to know that they are on the right bus, essentially. And if you as a leader are not showing up like that, you're not mirroring those behaviors, you're going to lose your team. And what I've noticed about some leaders, they do the big stuff, the really big stuff. They'll have the big conferences, do the big speeches, do the big one-to-ones once a year or once a quarter. But because their behaviors are not consistent, their team really they don't really believe in them. They think that the leaders think that they do, but they don't. So it goes back to that original piece of understand the kind of leader that you want to be. What are your principles? What are your values? How do you want to lead? And how are you going to consistently turn up for those people? And then once you've established that, then you go, okay, so what's the health routine I need to put in place? What are the behaviors I really need to work on? What do I want to work on with my coach? What do I want to work on myself? What books do I want to read? And then you have a reason for why you're doing all those things. Again, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but always come back to the why. Why is it that you want to be? Where do you want to be going? Who do you want to be? And then everything flows from there. I'd also say actually as well, I think it's sometimes quite useful because as a separated parent, now my partner and I get on really well now. I think we're the best of friends really. And we have been trying to be very, very consistent with our parenting. And leadership, it comes in all different forms, right? It comes as in a professional, but it comes in a personal. We are leading our children. We are trying to show them behaviors that we would love them to pick up. But if we're not consistent in our messaging about bedtimes and how long my 16-year-old can stay out on a Friday night, and food and TV and how we want them to be educated. If Tash and I are not aligned with all that, then it's incredibly confusing. And children just need consistency. They need the clarity. They need accountability. They need all the things a leader needs to give their people. So I think try not to think about consistency as just as habits or fitness or leadership. Think about how you want to behave in the world and how you want to keep turning up consistently with the people around you, with your friends, but your children, with your partner, with your spouse, with your parents. How do you want to consistently keep turning up with them? So I think it's really important to kind of establish that first and then move forward with it.
I loved how you took it to the character bit, because like we often forget, to decide what kind of character we want to be. Yeah. So we read about all this leadership stuff, but actually it comes back to you deciding how does your character and actually what feels natural to you, and actually leverage the strengths, because it's really hard to be good at all those things, but it could be 3 things you decide, and I'm just going to be super consistent in that, and I think it really also depends, of course, your journey to that. Often when I have met CEOs, you can hear, if it's not a founder, but it's like a career CEO, the only goal that was from an early age, they found out I actually have a talent here, was that I'm going to be CEO. And it was just focusing on the skills to become a CEO. So the strategy work, either you got your position in operations, sales, or finance, was typical where you're born out into the CEO role, and they're just focusing on these skills. Then they end there. And then these character things they haven't even thought about. That's actually what's only is important now. Of course, you need to facilitate the strategy, but really everybody's doing the technical bit. What you need to be is you need to be the strongest character in the organization, the character that actually lift yourself and the culture to a new level. And that's your job. And that becomes very hard suddenly, if you don't have started that journey earlier and have those, I'm not saying everybody, but I've met a lot of people that end there and then they find out, wow, there's a big gap on who I am as a leader, not a CEO.
Yeah. And everyone's, of course, everyone's looking to you
Yeah.
remain consistent with all these behaviors and consistently deliver the same message. And leadership is incredibly lonely. I found leadership very lonely. I really did find it lonely. And because everything was on me, decisions wise, you had the, towards the end with Ollie and Steen, I had the board asking specific questions about how am I going to grow this business at a rapid rate. And then I've got a team underneath like Christ, are we going to keep going at this pace? And then all the other stuff that's coming around. So leadership is incredibly lonely. And if you don't understand the kind of leader that you want to be and the kind of behaviors you want in place to manage that, it can cause huge amounts of stress. And people burn out. People burn out because of these things. Obviously, the body is telling you constantly you need to stop or you need to change your behaviors, whatever as well. But I think it's really helpful to understand the kind of leader you want to be and the kind of behaviors you need to have in place, your platform, in order for you to manage which is normally such a huge role. CEO is a big MD, CEO, operations director. They are big roles, and a lot of people look to you for the answers. And if you're not being consistent in your own behaviors and you're consistent in your routines that help you be a better leader, then that is where the cracks start to form. And that is when the team start to pull away. People leave people, they don't leave businesses. And if they don't feel like you're mirroring those behaviors and being consistent with what you're actually saying, you're in trouble.
And it's quite interesting because I got huge responsibility early in my career, which was both flattering, but also I was not ready because exactly of this about how you run yourself consistently and thereby how do you actually then go? I understood how to build systems in the organization, business system, but it doesn't really matter because I was not consistent. And when I look back, it was actually that was one, the character bit was not developed to that job yet. Or probably 3 to 4 years too early, just from a wisdom point of view, or myself, some people are ready earlier, but I got through it and I probably learned a lot, but also probably damaged a lot,
So, are you talking about self-wisdom? Were you, in terms of wisdom? Yeah, about yourself.
Leading yourself and knowing what characters I needed to show up on. And I was just like, I knew all the theory, but I was a bit all over the shop. I didn't really practicing it every day. I didn't review myself. I didn't have a system for myself, as we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And when you get clear on that, my learning was as soon as I got really clear on that and I worked on that, I actually also that's what I've seen with people or leaders I've interviewed here on the podcast. There's actually a really interesting pattern. People writing the book now, and there is this power of consistency in the organization, which often is underestimated. The rhythm of the organization that doesn't come by accident. It's like, it's the characters of the organization, you can almost say, because it has a soul. And the ability to keep that soul going is only about being consistent. And it's really that, as you said, clarity of purpose and values always comes back to that. What are the guiding principles for this place, and how do we keep that alive? And then it's excellent in leadership. That comes back to every individual, the CEO, the leaders on all levels. What standards do they have? And, is that really visible? Can I actually feel them? Are they not just saying these things, but actually they're living it, they're doing it, and I can feel that, rhythm from them. And then is it your standard for your people? Again, what is that? And how do you actually keep that consistency in your people systems? And then the last thing I learned was that really business system come last. Efficiency in your business system. Of course, it's important to have efficient operating systems, finance system, marketing systems. But they really come last because if you don't have fixed the others, they will fall at some point because people run tired or they lose the meaning and the purpose. And as you say, they leave the organization because we didn't start with the individual leader, the CEO, founder, then they actually built something for the organization and then moved down the ladder. And all these leaders, especially the one that's been successful, reflect back on that journey about how they got these systems of consistency in, but actually some of it is a bit fluffy, but they built some kind of steps and systems in to make it work and make it show up every day. And everybody has a different model, but that's really the areas they're touching on. So I thought it was just interesting, as we just have been in some of that research, and we thought, wow, that's quite an interesting, actually, lots of businesses are talking about their systems, but actually not the more spiritual systems, I would say. That actually comes much before all the business systems are created.
Yeah, I totally agree.
What is we talked a bit about routines, and can you talk a bit about some systems you would recommend people to look at here in the new year, as they're saying, okay, that's great, I really bought into this consistency bit, I can be adaptable with it, it impacts my leadership style. But is there like concrete places I could start to try out? We already mentioned a book, which I think is a really good tool, Atomic Habits with James Clear, which we have up here. We can just show that to people quickly. It's a book I read once a year because you keep on learning from it. It's powerful.
I agree. Can I make a step back?
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important in terms of why we talked about the sort of the why of, staying consistent and behavior change and all those things. I work on a model with the Steve Peters model, which is the chimp. I think Lobby would have read Paradox, and I think I've got the book here actually. Yes, Path Through the Jungle. There for the people. And I think it's really important. It's really helpful to understand that model. And essentially, the model is we have a chimp brain, a human brain, and then we have this sort of computer over here. And a chimp brain is 10 times faster than the human brain. And the chimp is the sort of the emotional, protective side of our brain. So, and it sort of leaps to our defense. It's straight away, way before the human side of us. So, you go back to that sort of simple piece of waking up at 5 o'clock, particularly at the moment, it's cold, it's dark, it's lovely and warm in bed. The chimp will say to you, because he wants to protect you, wants to keep you comfortable and safe, will say, don't get up. It's ridiculous. Stay here. It's nice and safe. It's nice and warm. And that is often what people say, like, you know what, I'll do this. And the chimp will be saying literally, do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. And that is what there's a drive for many people is the chimp is talking to us. And because it's 10 times faster than the human side, it gets in there quick. It's the one that kind of, if you get cut off at the crossroads, the chimp part of your brain is the one like calling that person all sorts of names. And for some people, it might chase them down the road. And it's about understanding. And that's why it's so important to have a real understanding of why I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not just getting up at 5 o'clock because I want to keep fit. Why do I want to keep fit? Why do I want to meditate? Why do I want to go for a walk? It's that why all the time. So, and it is about managing the chimp. And so the managing the chimp is kind of talking to the chimp, acknowledging it. Listen, chimp, I know you feel warm in here, but actually I want to get up because I know I always feel better once I move. And it's, if you can create routines, regular routines for yourself. So getting up at that regular time, just create that routines. You're creating a pathway that means the chimp can kind of calm down and go, okay, so this is normal now. I've been getting up for 5 a.m. for years. The chimp never says to me these days, stay in here. He knows why we're getting up because it's just information that I've learned over time. And that is often where people get really stuck, is because the chimp will always try to keep you safe and comfortable. And any step change, any new habit, anything that we try to do differently is danger and unsafe to the chimp. So he will try for quite a long time to get in the way of that habit change. So I think it's really important that people understand that what we need to get is the human side of it, which is the one the human side is the one that understands why we're really doing it. The chimp is just emotional, just says, "Oh, don't do that. It's cold outside," or if you're making changes to the business, no, don't do that because we've always done it like that. We've always done it like that, and it's talking to the human. We're changing it because the climate needs to change. The business climate has changed, so we need to change it to that stuff as well. So I think that's a really good place to start, is to understand that actually we have this chimp mind that just wants to protect us, that goes back to, the saber-tooth tiger wandering around and something might jump out of the bushes. And so it's always alert to danger. And getting up at 5 o'clock out of a warm bed is danger.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really interesting, Ali, because we talked a lot about the chimp over the years. And actually, the interesting is also when you have to change behavior on, we talked about last year, beliefs in behavior, how you actually change them. Because you always talk to me about there's like 4 steps or laws you need to go through to do that. And that goes both for you as an individual, it goes for you as the CEO in your leadership job, and it goes for the organization. These are what happens every time. It's also in the book Shift or Notch. They talk a lot about these, and James Clear talks about that as well. Do you want to take people through them? Because you talked about, you talk a lot about environment here and so on, how you actually set yourself up for success.
Yeah. So I think, and I'm referring to James Clear here as well. Identity. He talks about in his book, it's I'm going to go running, and you say, well, actually, I'm a runner. So the first of all is forming that identity.
Yeah.
It's creating the right environment. And I think it's about creating an environment that is that is conducive to behavior change, surrounding yourself with the right people, making the environment as frictionless as possible for that change to happen as well. That is incredibly important. The more friction that we put in our way, the less like we will do it. It's how do we reward that? There has to be some kind of reward. So I know we're talking about fitness, but if I go to the gym, I really enjoy the coffee and the protein shake I have when I get back. That is my reward. That's what rewards me for putting in the effort to do those things. Tracking the success. You asked me, the original question was, how do I measure all these things, and how do I sort of, know that they're being successful and staying consistent? I think if you can show to yourself that there is some kind of success going on, that helps the behavior to stick. And I think over time, and there are so many books and so many people sort of saying it's 21 days, it's 40 days. I don't believe there is any length of time. It's just what's right for certain people, for lesson. So yeah, I think it's going back to those environment, identity, remove friction. What's the rewards? What's the success that you're going to get out of it? And it is making a plan, but it's also going back to that original thing that I know I've been banging on about so much is, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And if you can get to the bottom of that, and that long-term view of where you want to be and how that is feeding into it and why you should be doing it, that is going to be so much more helpful to you sticking to those habits or those behavior changes.
It's very interesting, the identity bit, because I can't remember where, probably James Clear, I can't remember, it's from the book. I read the book some years ago, but I had this adversity to sit down and write. I really wanted to write a book, but I didn't. I was not a writer. So if you're not a writer, you can't become an author. It's like just insane, or you can get somebody else to write your book, of course. But actually the power of clarity, and I think it was Ari in an interview, Ari Weinswijk from Singerman said to me, write 5 minutes every day, because then you can call yourself a writer.
Great.
And I did that, and he said, do that for 60 days. Tell me what you learn. So he kept me accountable. So I had to write back. And of course, if Ari asks you to do that, you will do that. It'll be stupid not to do, because he's the maverick guru. So I did that, and thereby I changed my identity suddenly from being occasionally writing a blog or content creation on that. It became, and it didn't matter. He said, it doesn't matter what you write about, just write. So I just wrote and wrote and wrote. I think I did it for more than 60. I did it in 90 days. And that means now I write every day because it's become my identity. I don't want to drop my identity because I feel good about my identity. Like I also say I'm a runner. I'm a great dad. I want to be the best dad, So you have this identity. And if you actually then go back to what we talked about last year, in your affirmation every day, say, this is how I want to show up in the world. You suddenly become very consistent if you then track them, as you say. And what I do, I don't know, everybody has different tools, but I have like my impact tracker. And there is writing in that. There is eating a specific way, the 4 foundational food groups, which is primarily plant-based food and meat in a very high quality. It is running 3 to 5 days a week. It is writing every day, reading, But actually that makes it visible for me. I am doing the right things and the results will come. I know that from the past. I just have to stay on track.
And I think what you said there was really, and to add to the list I gave you, accountability. You've spot on.
Yeah.
And he made you accountable to that.
Yeah.
And if, for anything, if someone is around asking that question, are you writing? Are you writing? For me, it's a little bit like I haven't done my homework on a, Sunday night homework on a Monday, and somebody says, have you done your homework? You're like, oh God. And I have somebody that, I work with. We are both coaches, great friends, but we keep each other accountable to the behaviors and actions that we want to take. And we will say that I want to do this for my business or for me personally. And we'll both ask each other the following week, did you do that? You said that you were going to do it. And there's something about that. It's kind of, oh God, I've been I haven't done what I said I would do with somebody that I really trust and love. So the accountability, I think, is so spot on, Michael. I think Simon Sinek said that, he wouldn't get up and exercise, but if he knew that he was going to let somebody down, who was supposed to be going to the gym, suddenly he'd be going to the gym. So it's finding what works for you as well. It is absolutely finding what works for you. And as you say, the identity piece is so important. Like you became a writer. And what you also did was you didn't say, I'm going to write for an hour. You wrote for 10 minutes. Just journaling, 2 minutes. Great. Then it starts to become something consistent and something that you start to really enjoy, and you get so much out of it, of course. So, yeah.
And it actually came because I was asking him, as a business leader, how do you actually get all this written down? You do. Because it's a super important priority for me to get clarity to be able to tell the organization, this is what we do and this is why we're doing it. Back to what you said, the why. Yeah. So I need to do this to be a good CEO. It starts there, and then that had turned into books. It just started with a page, many of the things, or half a page or 2 lines. And then I just worked on it every day, every morning. That's what he does. Goes to the deli. That's his environment. The deli, the coffee, writing. And then sometimes I write for 50 minutes. Other times I write for 3 hours because I just go into the flow because I planned my day like that. My job is to create clarity for me and the team. And it's just really interesting coming back to what we talked about leadership before, actually. How do you block time out to do it? And maybe you can't do that every day as Ari does, but he started somewhere. He probably didn't do it every day. He's probably started with a small intervention every day. And then over time, he got more time to do it because clarity got better. And therefore, he's buying himself time.
Yeah. And I think also, Ari sounds like Ari will have a fridge magnet of some kind of why, right? It's he will see that every day, and part of him writing every day is feeding into that person he wants to be, or what he wants to accomplish in the world, what kind of legacy he wants to leave. It will have all. I'm sure if we had a conversation like why does Ari do it? He doesn't do it just for fun. There is a reason behind that and what he wants to achieve in his life.
Yeah, and I think that's bigger. That's a different one from the organization, but it's really well connected with it. And he started just working in a deli every day, and then has evolved to something totally different now.
Yeah.
17 businesses all do different things within food, and I know there's something about changing workplace culture in the world, and then there's something about the food system. That's really the two big drivers for him. And I know that's some of the drivers for myself as well. And then within that, he's found his niches, and he just even at an age of 65, continuing relentless on that journey, because it's not over before it's over, as he says. Every day I need to go and do the impact. You talked a bit about the environment, and we talked about it before, but I think really how you set yourself up for doing the right things. And I think you mentioned a bit about it, but I just want to touch a bit more about it. It's also how you plan your day the day before from a consistency point of view. How do you actually close down and setting things up the day before? So I know, for example, I will have my reflection, my journal book will be on the table when I come down. The book I'm reading 10 minutes in is lying there as well. I would already have made space. If I'm doing stretching, there'll be space in the living room. I would, if I'm running in the morning, the running clothes would be ready. Is that helpful? Is that your experience as well when it comes to consistency? You absolutely set yourself up for success.
Kind of friction. That sounds like it's totally frictionless. You're literally walking down. You don't have to move a load of furniture. You can just start stretching. Your book is there to be read. I do very similar things, Michael. Going back to how I plan my week, I really believe you should top and tail your week. So Fridays, I tend not to work with clients. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of reading. I sort of plan where, I just have a look at the business. What's the client work I've been doing? Where do I want to just remind myself where I'm supposed to be going? I always write out who am I working with the following week, any sort of three things I want to achieve. I'm making sure that I kind of know where I am with the clients, what I want to work with them on. And that's, for me, that Friday is a real joyous time as well, because I feel like I'm sort of tailing the day, like I'm finishing off the week. I really know where I'm going. And then when it comes around to Monday, I look at that, and I have my morning routine where I do similar things to you. I get up at 5 and I exercise. I do the meditation, but I also read. And I'm well ahead of the day. By the time it's 8 o'clock, I'm ready for my first client by 9 because I've read their notes. And then at the end of the day, I make sure that I've done all the notes for the clients. I think also that one of my behaviors I'm trying to be very consistent in is to get notes to clients as soon as possible. If I say I'm going to do it, I do it. It's something my father embedded in both me and my brother. If you say you're going to do it, do it. And if I say I'm going to get the notes to you this evening or tomorrow morning, that's what's going to happen. That's a consistent behavior I've built in. So yeah, I just try and finish off the day, and then I write what I want to, what's going to happen for the following day. I just move it. Yeah, I've got my daily planner here as well. And I just move everything to the next day. And then I can shut down. And then I have my children, Wednesday, Thursday, every other Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I really want to be present with them. I want to spend proper time with them. It's something that I just didn't do enough of. Rather, when I was in hospitality, that's been a big behavior change. I came from a family where sitting still was a crime. I wasn't picking up sticks on the lawn, so the lawnmower wouldn't jam. I was cleaning windows. I did a paper round. It was just like we were just, as a family, we're just always doing things, and it's a built-in. I'm 56 now, and I still have that baked in that I'm always having to be doing things. Now, one of the behaviors I had to change was sitting still and being present with my children. That is something I've had to work really, really hard at. And also, I found a business or an industry that really suited my behaviors. Didn't switch off. Great. I found an industry that doesn't switch off. Perfect. So some of my behaviors, my consistency in my behaviors was pretty poor because I couldn't switch off. I was always on the phone. We talk about consistency, but there's the negative side of it as well. I was phone all the time. My dad, who's no longer with us, constantly, if I spend time with him, like, do you have to be on the phone? I said, Dad, what are the restaurants? The arrogance of me saying in front of my father, who had some pretty reasonable success, but saying, no, Dad, my restaurant's this, and like, I thought, what a prick when I looked back, because I had this. It was just baked in. I always need to be doing things, and one of the things I've had to learn is to undo. Is weekends. I need to reset and spend time with the kids when I've got them, or spend time with friends, and not have to feel like I need to work all the time, or just be doing things. So it's about also understanding our behaviors that we brought from essentially childhood, and they just become normalized.
It's so interesting when you have a entrepreneurial family, parents, which I have myself, and I really struggle with that bit. I think many that listen in, and there's a reason why you got to where you got, because of the grit and the constant looking for the next thing. And I have to, I really struggle with that as well. And I think it's exactly, as long as you're aware you're struggling with it. But sometimes also the chores is a way of relief. So it's not maybe a work thing you're doing, but you're tidying up or whatever you do. And I need to do that sometimes. That's like, and to be able to sit still, I need to take a step out of work, and then I need to do something, a chore in the house. I need to do one thing every day to feel calm. Because I can't. It's not like I can't have. You need to accept mess when you have a young family, but like I just can't. The kitchen is me. It's my thing. I just can't do anything before the kitchen is totally organized and clean. And I was like, it's just my thing, and there's nothing to do. Everybody knows it in the house. There's no compromise. I have to go there. Then I can sit more still. But up to that, it's just like, and I think it comes from the hospitality industry,
Yeah, I think it does. You totally do. And as like me, you chose an industry that suited our behavior, our consistency of our behaviors. It really was. And I didn't realize until I did my own work, of course. I thought, oh God. And I could never understand how people had weekends. I just didn't understand this whole weekend concept.
No.
And it's taken me a long, long time to realize that weekend for a lot of people is rest time, because I was just driven, I suppose, but it was just a baked in. And Dad was entrepreneurial. He was always coming up with lots of ideas. He had a number of businesses. And I think, the conversations around consistency and understanding why you have these behaviors and what holds these behaviors back. And you have to understand yourself before you can lead, either as a parent or as a leader in business. Before you can even start looking at your habits, why am I doing this? What behavior have I brought through, or belief have I brought through from my childhood that is making me do these things, and where am I trying to get to? So it's about doing the work and understanding, and it was just a revelation to me. I was thought, oh my God. And actually, my ex struggles to sit still as well, so it was just the two of us together was just like, it's like we're always working. We were always working, and we've both had to learn over time that we don't need to be. We're both quite driven individuals. Tash is very, very, really driven and very successful female entrepreneur. And but those behaviors fed each other, and with that became consistent with how we lived.
Almost a fuel to more negativity than
like petrol on the fire. Yes,
I love actually, because we didn't plan that actually how we ended at actually where consistency can also become negative, and that's also there where you need to stop yourself, as I talked a bit about in the beginning. But I never thought about that thing you just said, that need for doing all the time. I can see. I was just laughing so much because I was thinking That's why my dad, that's my mom, and that's still my mom, 78 years old. Like, she just like run the house like she ran her business. She's always on that house in a way. I think it's really important to remember as you're listening to that, there's a backside to that again. Dial down on the things that's not serving everything in your life. If it's not serving you anymore, just dial down on these, consistency behaviors, and maybe change them. It doesn't mean you need to stop 100%, but maybe just change them. So it's not just about, because it become very egoistic as well. I was thinking about that as you were talking. Behaviors around consistency become very egocentric as well. So you totally forget that they're just serving you, but not all the people in your life or the environment you're part of, which is very important as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really great point, because my getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning did not serve my relationship well, and because I wasn't. It served me well because I was, when everyone came awake, I was there, I was energetic, but actually, it meant I went to bed earlier. And so our routine was all messed up. So you have to, so it wasn't, so we didn't have much time just to kind of spend together. And you have to think about those things as well, because we can get quite selfish with our routines. And yeah, I think it's really important. And I always go back to how where I talk to clients is like, okay, what does happiness mean to you? What does fulfillment mean to you? And what does success mean to you? Let's understand that sort of vision in action. And what do those three things mean to you? And then let's work those out first. And then let's work about your consistency behaviors, your beliefs, your habits, all those things, and what we're going to work on, because you need to know what the North Star is. And those are your three North Stars, really. And as I say, if some of those habits are not supporting your relationship, for instance, then let's try and adapt that habit. But I was quite bullish with those things, and it took a separation and a breakup to really understand, like, oh right, that was not. It kind of served me, but it wasn't the smartest move I've ever made.
No, and you when you have these reflections, it's good to have them, and when they hurt, you also changes going forward. It's me, and then you will have to hit these walls in life. That's part of, you need to go through the pain to become a better person.
Yeah.
Ali, what would be on a closing reflection? Because what would be your recommendations to people if there's one thing? Now we take the perception that people maybe don't have a systems in place for being consistent. They might have some, but they feel a bit wobbly. Is there any mindset, anything you can go in with 2025 here and say, I'm going to change the way I do consistency?
I think health, it always comes down to health. Michael, it really does. It's the platform everything's built on. If you don't have good health, it's like building something on sand.
I love it.
And what health looks like to you. This is the other thing that we are bombarded with people. We talk about this 5 a.m. wake ups and all that sort of stuff. We are bombarded by people, influencers, telling us what we should be doing
to be successful. Yeah,
or to be happier, to be more like. I just don't get. I just don't get that. It's about understanding what you need. I did a post the other day about I find a more routine really helpful. Somebody said, I just like getting up and having a cup of tea and just sitting and reading, or just doing a bit of meditation in the morning. And that's what sets me up. I have my own business coach who I'm just started working with, actually, so building the business out. And we were talking about routine. He said, no, I've never been a routine, but I just like to get up and journal. He just journals, and that's what serves him. So going back to your question, I do think health is really important, but it comes in lots of shapes and forms. Stop listening to everybody yelling at you and telling you what you should be doing. Think about what's really going to serve you. I think getting up a little bit earlier is always helpful. I think having some time on your own, whether it's walking, going for a lovely walk. I mean, it's a bit dark these days, but go for a lovely walk, doing some stretching, just some kind of movement is a great start. And also just making a bit of a plan for the day means that you don't just lurch into the day and then just hit the first obstacle and you just go off wherever.
Or grab the first disruption.
Yeah, you take charge of the day. I mean, being in charge of the day, I think, is being really intentional about how you want to have that day work out. And of course, stuff happens, right? But if you have some intentionality about the day, it really does start from having some kind of morning routine and some kind of I don't want to say exercise because people have lots of connotations, but some kind of routine that you have some kind of movement in and you're doing something for yourself that sets you up for the day. So I think as a step change, just to start, that would be a great start, but understand why you're doing it.
Yeah, I love the health bit. I couldn't agree. If that goes, everything goes. And I always say to people as well, what's one thing I learned years ago is that if you don't know if it's consistency or your goals, the best thing you can do is actually invest in yourself. Is that your health or your learning? Because then it become clear to you what your goals are and what you need to go and do, because actually you're doing something that actually improving yourself in a way. And I'm not talking about becoming a better social media strategist or whatever. I'm talking like how to improve yourself. Go on a course where you're improving yourself, some really valuable skills around your health, your personal development or your writing. There will be something happening that gives you clarity about what you need to consistency about. Because if you like it, you want to do more of it, and then you better systemize it in some kind of way. And you can't copy other people's systems. You need really to develop your own systems. Yeah. I think often that's forgotten. You need to do the crafting. You can't just pick it down from the shelf of Gary Vaynerchuk and Tony Robbins and Ali and Michael. You need to go and do it yourself, Yeah.
Yeah. They serve different people. We're all different people in how they serve them. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. And just cherry picks and things that work for you.
And it will change over time, as we talked about before.
So
where can people connect with you, Ali, if they want to talk more about consistency?
I'm on LinkedIn. My website is aligordoncoaching.com. And you can sort of book some time with me and have a chat and whatever as well. But yeah, the normal places, basically.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on board. Power and energy and love for amazing 2025. More breakthroughs coming through better consistency.
Yes, and for all your audience as well. Yeah, have an amazing 2025.